Cancer is one of those diseases that we all hear about but know very little about. At Vision News South, our editor Steve Purcell recently discovered that he has cancer. Today he's going to tell us about his aspirations for the future, but more importantly, what effect it's had on him. Steve, not long ago you had a bit of a shock when you discovered that you needed to take some advice about possibly having cancer. What happened?
Well, I got back from holiday in Spain to discover that I was finding quite difficulty swallowing. It was as if all the food was trying to get into my stomach, but it wouldn't go. And occasionally it would come back up again. So I realised there was something wrong. I had a hiatus hernia for about 20 years, so guessed it was something related to that. And so gave it a couple of weeks and it wasn't improving, so I thought I'd better go and see the doctor.
When you got to the hospital, how do they treat you? What did they actually say to you?
Well, I wasn't frightened at all, really, because I'd had a gastrectomy years before when my hiatus hernia was diagnosed, so I knew roughly what to expect and I knew I'd be sedated, so it wasn't a frightening process. And the hospital were very good in briefing me as to what was going to happen and everything else, so the care at the hospital was actually quite superb. When I was told I had cancer initially, I think like everybody else, I was just absolutely scared. And it was quite strange because you immediately become very emotional. And I think you automatically assume the word cancer means death. And I think most people who hear that assume that. But of course the reality is quite different. The majority of people who have cancer are cured from it quite successfully, rather than having to die.
Do you have a message to other people who might be in the big wide world, who might be in a similar situation to you?
I think the most important thing is being to talk to other people about it, to get it off my chest, as it were, to share what is there. And I immediately wanted to tell all my friends because I didn't want them hearing it from third parties, because I know that half of them would hear that I was dead or was dying. I didn't want them to have that shock, and I wanted to tell them myself. But for me, it's almost therapeutic in doing that, because the more I was able to talk about it, the more accepting I was of it, and the more it, in a sense, settles into place. The chances are that I'm going to have a period of chemotherapy to shrink the tumour, because they indicate that people who have chemotherapy before operations cope much better with the operation than before, and it means they probably can do keyhole surgery as opposed to having to open up the whole chest and stomach to be able to get in there to do it. All the indications are it hasn't gone anywhere else. Cut it out and it's sorted. We always view life as the end of everything, but of course if we have faith and if we are Christians, then there's more beyond. I don't want to go just yet. I'm not ready to go. There's an awful lot of things I'd like to do. So, please God, keep me a bit longer and we'll keep going. I'm
sure that he will. Now, I've also been reading about you on Facebook. Now, Facebook, you and your pals, indeed I also have subscribed, have left messages. What does that bring to you?
Again, Facebook I find fantastic because it's people that you perhaps otherwise wouldn't keep in touch with, who you can just keep a nodding acquaintance with. I'm not into, putting on Facebook as many of the youngsters are, saying, we're going down the Dog and Bone and we'll see you down there in 5 minutes. So that's not how I use it.
I'd very much like to come back here to the riverbank with you after you've had your treatment. Will you keeping us all in touch with how it's going? Because I think you are absolutely somebody who actually is an inspiration to people who've had it. Because what I see in you is somebody with enormous strength. So can we look forward, if that's the right thing to say, to you coming back and sharing your experiences with us?
Yeah, Brian, my intention is to carry on producing a few news shows and a few news items, and to carry on working as much as I can. For me, that's actually important, to keep life as stable and as normal as possible. Clearly there are going to be times when I can't do that, and I'm not going to be around. I'm going to be in hospital, or I'm going to have chemo or whatever. But yes, I'm more than happy to you come and shove a camera in my face and we can talk at any time. I'm so picturesque, it's well worth you coming to make the visit.
It'll be very nice to see you under the pressure of a camera rather than you giving people a hard time yourself.
Brian, I never give anybody a hard time.
My conversation today with Steve Purcell have been about how he has confronted the news and is coping with the fact that he has got cancer. This is the first of many reports where Steve Purcell will be honest and open with us about how having treatment for cancer has actually and will make a change to his life, but more importantly, how he can be open with all of us about those who have cancer and how they actually face the world once treatment has taken place. This is Brian Clifford speaking from Salisbury in Wiltshire.